Welcome to the Ask Faleskini podcast with a guest. I'm proud to present Riana Malia. Riana, welcome to the show. Please tell us more about yourself.
Thanks so much for having me. So first and foremost, I'm a mama, a wife. Actually, just this week celebrated our 2-year wedding anniversary, which is such a blessing because I'll tell you, I never, ever, ever thought that I would find my person after life's challenges of a very young marriage and a tumultuous divorce, and then all kinds of crazy things after that. So that's a blessing. Which obviously all of that journey led me to the work that I do in the world today, which there's people will say, well, what do you call yourself? It's a lot of words that nobody cares about. I'm a board certified neurosomatic practitioner, and I use quantum time release, evolved neurolinguistic programming, and advanced trauma conscious coaching in order to serve my clients. What I really do is work with high achieving women who've been successful everywhere. They've had a career, they've had kids, they have friendships, but then at this time of life, they find themselves either struggling with the fact that while everything else feels good, there's this piece of extraordinary love that's missing, or they're just at this transition time of like, who am I now? I've been a mom or a wife for all of these years, and I put everybody else first. And when I ask that question of, who, what, on the other side of this being stuck or this experience you're having, what are you doing or not doing differently than you're doing or not doing right now? What lights you up? And that often brings tears. And the answer often is, I don't know. I don't even know. I don't even know how to answer that question. So being able to reset patterns that keep repeating so that people can finally create the life and the love and the relationships that are true and aligned and as extraordinary as they are.
Wow, that's amazing. Um, since we're talking about midlife crisis,
Yeah.
would you say that missing love or not knowing who we are is part or indicates midlife crisis?
I think when we come to this stage in life, it's like this moment where you go, oh, wait, there's an expiration date on this body. And, you've done all these things and you've been, a lot of times we're just kind of like functioning from an unconscious place we don't even realize, right? All the old stuff that's running the show. But then there's typically like a moment. Sometimes it's long time coming, and sometimes it's literally you wake up and go, wait a minute, what am I doing? Like literally, who am I now? And between now and dead, like, what do I want? What do I want in my relationships? What do I want? Like, do I want to go learn how to speak Italian or learn how to paint or, you know, start a business or end a business? Like I think it really becomes a time of there is not infinite time. We're never promised tomorrow. And it's so critically important to understand that no matter how old you are, it's not too late. You're not too broken. You're not too much. You're not too little. Regardless of what has always been, or maybe what has been for a very long time, literally has no indication of what can be. You can change your life today.
Okay. So when we become aware of that, I don't know who I am, how should we go about it? Should we read a book? Should we enroll in a course? Should we get a coach or therapist? What is the best way that you would recommend if suddenly we find ourselves in this aha moment? I don't know what's going on. I have a problem.
Yeah.
Uh, where should we start?
So here's the thing that I will say. All of those things have benefit, right? Anytime that we're have had a trauma or an experience or a failed relationship or a marriage or a business, we do all the things that we're told to do. We talk about it in therapy. We talk about it with our friends. We read the books. We do the journaling. And again, all of those things have benefit, but they don't actually solve the internal problem. So the reason that becomes an important part of the conversation is it's really important to understand the difference between the conscious mind and the unconscious mind. Okay, so if we think about our body, everything from the neck up is our conscious mind. It's all the things that we know, right? We use it all day long. It's our goal setter. It's 10%. which means the rest of our body, everything from the neck down, the other 90% is our unconscious mind. So if our conscious is our goal setter, the unconscious is actually the goal getter. It's the operating system. It's the general. And it's also the literal library of everything we've ever experienced in our entire life. Every thought, every feeling, every experience, whether it's been positive or negative. And all of that is held at a cellular level. And the reason that that's important is because we often think of memory being in the brain, which of course it lives in the circuitry, but it's cellular, which we know to be true from science at this point, right? And so when it's not properly released, we see things happen like anxiety, overwhelm, depression, confusion, autoimmune disorders, illness, injury, disease, because all of that is being held in your body. And so when we talk about the story, or we talk about the things, or we read the books, or we take the courses and we do the journaling, or we go to the retreats in Costa Rica, all of that is beneficial and it's from a conscious standpoint, but it cannot release or rewire those underlying patterns that have been keeping you, for your entire life stuck. So when we look at kind of the methodology of my work, it's called the Clear to Create method. And the reason for that is, my kind of tagline since as long as I can remember, since I was in my early 20s, has always been your very best life. Whether we have been friends for decades or we just met in the coffee line, I want you to live your version of your very best life. And that's going to be different for every single one of us. But what's not different is the truth of the fact that you cannot go from being held back by past pain or old story or unresolved stuff or childhood stuff or this fear and this uncertainty to just living your very best life. We have to clear before we can create. So we have to clear the story to create the life. So many people that are in this time of life or in this space are like, I want a different story, or I don't even know what story I want. Well, if you want a different story, you have to stop telling the old one, first and foremost. And then we have to clear the cycles to create the confidence. Because also in this time where it's uncertain, we don't really trust ourselves, truly, because we think, well, I thought I knew, but look how that turned out. And so we have to clear those cycles to create that confidence so that you can really lean into trusting yourself again. And we have to clear the patterns to create the partnerships. We want aligned, genuine, amazing partnerships, personally, professionally, romantically, with our children, with our friends, with our family. But when we bring all these old subconscious, unconscious patterns with us everywhere we go, we don't get those partnerships. We get more of the same, which typically is more of what we don't want. And we have to clear the loss to create the love. So it's really important to understand that, yes, therapy is wonderful. Where it becomes counterproductive is when you get caught in the therapeutic loop of just you go in and you tell your story. Because every time you go back to the story of the drama, of the pain, of the trauma, we talked about all of that as cellular memory. Your body relives it over and over and over. And it is 100% the guaranteed way to make sure that you never actually move on, move forward, and get what you want in this life. Because your neurology is just constantly being given the direction back into the pain and the trauma that caused the problem in the first place.
Okay. When you talk about we have to clear a story, would you say that we have to forget it or we just have to interpret it differently? Like it did not happen to us, but it happened for us. For example, we had this difficult breakup with our partner, and then it can be a trauma for a lifetime, or we can say, okay, this was the best thing that ever happened to me or for me because I could then find out what I want and then go and search for the partner that I need or that best suits my need.
So I love that question. So that really is the distinction between when we're standing in our story or on our story.
Mm-hmm.
When we're in the story, you talk about it and you get mad or you start crying or you get the pit in your stomach and your heart starts racing and your hands get clammy and you are just in it and you are reliving it and it re-traumatizes you over and over and over again. When you're standing on your story, it no longer has any of that effect on you, which means that a few things have happened. Number one, there's probably been some level of forgiveness. And I talk about alchemical forgiveness in my work. And the word forgiveness, and I hate the word trigger, but it really is a trigger for a lot of people because they say, why would I forgive that person? They hurt me so horribly, or they did this to me, or they did that to me. And the thing is that forgiveness isn't about them. And forgiveness does not make anything okay. It doesn't justify the behavior. It doesn't let them off the hook. And it certainly doesn't mean they get a seat at the table. What forgiveness does is it frees you from continuing to drink this poison and hope that they die. It's not how it works. Forgiveness is being able to take back your power and say, you know, the thing that happened, or the thing that you did, or the thing that hurt me is no longer going to control my thoughts, my emotions, my behaviors, my choices. Like that's me. It's not mine to carry. And also in that situation, you become, so it's almost like there's a moment for people where it becomes visceral. So we'll use your example of a breakup. People that love you in your life, and they call you, or you meet for a coffee or whatever, and they're like, oh my gosh, how are you doing? Like, and God, that person, I can't believe they did this to you. And then they might ask you a question and you go back into the story, and they think they're supporting you. What they're really doing is keeping you in the story. And that's where we have conversations around loving boundaries of saying, listen, I know you love me and you're just checking on me. I don't want you to talk about this anymore. I want to talk about what's going forward. I want to talk about what I'm looking forward to, what I'm, designing next. Because people don't understand the destruction that it does from an unconscious standpoint to keep bringing it up. So forget the story? No. Have some forgiveness, be able to stand on your story instead of in it. Ask yourself those questions of, what is there for me to learn here? What can I be doing or not doing differently than I'm doing or not doing right now that's actually aligned with the person that I am or that I'm becoming? And what does it really have to do with me? Because so often, everything is that we experience with other people, it's a reflection often of, it's perception, is projection, and we are projected back to ourselves, the unbalanced parts of us. And so when there's conflict or there's something that comes up, the very first thing you need to ask yourself is, what does this actually have to do with me? Why is this upsetting me? Is it about me? Is it about them? Is it about some unmet need for me? So being able to stand on your story instead of in it is life-changing.
Okay. I want to pick your brain on how are you going about forgiveness with your clients, and how would you recommend that they should release these grudges that we hold, or resentment? What's the best way to go? How to jump into the forgiveness? It's not just I'm forgiving you, because that does not work. I
That
know
does.
of Ho'oponopono and many other techniques. What's your favorite technique?
Hmm. So there's a couple of processes that I use in my work. One is called quantum time release. Quantum time release combines alchemical forgiveness, timeline work, and multidimensional modality that gives us the ability to clear all of that heavy emotional weight that we talked about that's held in the body. So if you think about every negative emotion, anger, sadness, fear, guilt, shame, and then all the limiting beliefs and limiting decisions and the stories in our head that we say about ourselves, each one of those has a ribbon.
Mhm.
Okay. And throughout our lifetime, every single time after the root cause experience, which we don't have conscious memory of, we have a significant emotional experience with any of those emotions. A marble goes on that ribbon: anger, sadness, fear, guilt, shame. So today, when something happens that makes you angry, it's not so much the thing today, it's the 30, 40, 50, 60 years of marbles behind it. It's the gestalt, it's the charge. It's the sum is greater than the parts. That's what we're holding on to. That's what we get to release without going back into any conscious memory of the thing that caused the trauma in the first place. So it's painless and peaceful. It's a completely unconscious process. Prior to that quantum time release experience, I do something with my clients called the quantum change process. And this is all about forgiveness. And it's a really incredible way to let's look at the person and the situation that there's conflict around. Tell me what that looks like. Now, I want you to tell me all the things you would need to forgive them for. And now I want you to tell me of all of those things, how did they make you feel? Sad, alone, discarded, angry, hurt, whatever, all the things. And then we look at a perception change, which is often, when we're able to see things in a different way, it gives us a possibility of forgiveness that wasn't there before. And then the question is, all of those things that you just shared with me that person made you feel, who in that person's life during childhood or adolescence made them feel that way? And in what traumas were they not resourced or supported in being able to release? And it's such a big aha moment for people, because there's this shift in that it wasn't intentional to hurt me. They never processed their trauma as a young person. And that's how they were made to feel by somebody significant in their life. And that's why we see, like, my father, for instance, who I haven't spoken to in years, but he would just go from family to family to family and just abandon people. And when I did this process and I had to forgive him for the crazy stuff that he put me through when we moved to California, it was like, oh, right. His parents left him in a field by himself as a teenager to fend for, like, of course, okay, he was abandoned and had to go just bounce. So it changes the perception and the understanding in a way in which it's no longer about you, and you can actually peacefully take back all of that power and let go of all the pain, because it isn't yours to carry anymore. And you holding on to it, it doesn't hurt them. It only hurts us.
Okay, so when we want to find out who we are, and we don't want to be just a huge person bearing all the traumas and fears and grudges. Um, how do you go with your clients about helping them to find who they really are?
Yeah.
What is theirs and what is societal induced?
So we talked a little bit about the methodology, and then my framework for the work is called the Quantum Pattern Protocol, and it's 3 phases, okay? Clear, create, and claim. And inside of those 3 phases are 3 steps. The really important thing to understand is, before we can even clear anything, we have to get crystal clear. We have to get the clarity of who you are, what you want, right? And so the way that we do that is in a few ways. I start with a session that I like to call your Limitless Life launch call. And it's really the only part of this work that feels a little bit like therapeutic modality, in the sense that I'm asking a bunch of questions using quantum linguistics to really find out, like, what do you want? Where are you now? And then what's underneath it all? What are the uns and the lesses that are keeping you from getting what you want? Powerless, hopeless, unloved, unlovable, unworthy, everyone leaves me, whatever that is. And then we get to create your menu. So most people, brilliant, smart, fabulous people, never actually get what they want because there's no clarity and specificity. So imagine that we went to a restaurant and we walked in and we sat down and the server came over and said, "What can I get for you?" And we said, I would like a beverage, some proteins, give me a side of some kind, and throw in a salad. Okay. They bring us back an iced tea, a pork chop, some carrots, and a Caesar salad. And we got exactly what we ordered, 100% what we asked for. But what we wanted was a glass of Chardonnay and a lovely piece of halibut and some roasted asparagus and an arugula salad with fresh figs and goat cheese. So the difference there is clarity and specificity, and most people don't get that depth. So how do we do that? We create what I call your Clarity Codex menu, and that involves 3 things. Number 1, we're going to do a values elicitation and figure out for you, whether we're doing a values elicitation for your life in general, for love and relationships, for health, for wealth, it doesn't matter. But what are without these things, it could not be. And so we just, you talk and I write, and I'm going to take down all of those values, and then we're going to reorder them, the top 10 only, in order of importance. So your top value never changes. With time and with growth and with circumstances, sometimes some of the other values either change in hierarchy, or they might change, one might drop off and something else might replace it. But understanding that that becomes kind of your baseline for you to get to make values-driven decisions. And the reason values-driven decisions are so important is because that gives us the ability to make clean yes and clean no decisions without having to be stuck in the middle. And the middle is the devil. The middle is maybe. The middle is, well, I don't know if this is the right thing. I don't know if this is really a red flag. Maybe I'm just being too ridiculously picky. Maybe should I do this? Should I not do this? And then one of two things happen. Either we make decisions out of fear, or we don't make a decision at all and we're just paralyzed and we just stay stuck and we don't do anything at all. The next piece of that are your non-negotiables that are literally non-negotiables. These are not to be compromised. These are the things that 100% would be absolutely a deal breaker. And then there are the desires, which are the things that you would really love to have. And those can be anything from, a characteristic, a certain height, a certain geography, down to things that you would love to experience. Like, I would love to come home from a long day and there's a bath drawn and a glass of wine waiting for me. Like, whatever those things are that become like the magic wand and the fairy dust. So now you have this incredible asset or codex, whatever you want to call it. And in a matter of 60 seconds, you can literally take anyone and run them through that, whether it's a business partner, a romantic partner, and go, okay, they get to be in my life. Anything if the values don't line up, or there's anything on that non-negotiables list or not on it, depending on the context, it's a clean no. You don't waste time. You move on. It's, it doesn't make the other person wrong, but it saves you days and weeks and months and years of anguish because you don't trust yourself. Now you don't have to worry about that. Eventually we'll get there, right? But first we have to get clear. Then we dysfunction detox and get rid of all the stuff that's no longer serving you. And then we get to figure out, who are you now? Like, who are you really? Aside from all the societal noise and the conditioning and the old trauma and all of that, who are you now? And then we get to move into that create phase and actually start creating and designing the life and the love that's meant for you.
Okay, that's amazing. How important is the body in all this process? How important is the diet, the exercise that we do, how we treat our body, our health, general health? How important is all this in your quantum process?
So it's interesting because, I'm not a dietitian or a nutritionist or a medical doctor, but obviously the more we care for ourselves, and there's been no other time in history that we have actually taken better care of ourselves than now, right? The more information we learn about and supplements and different things. So of course that's important. What's interesting is I will often, have people sent to me by people who are midlife practitioners and specialists, because there are things that their clients are doing all the right things, but they can't seem to lose the physical weight. They can't seem to, get rid of this kind of weird internal inflammation pain. And they will send them to me to clear that emotional weight. And then the physical body follows. And it's incredible because, and there's a difference in men and women because our nervous systems are designed differently. And with women specifically, if there's stuff going on in our nervous system and the unconscious mind doesn't feel safe, you literally cannot release physical weight. It's a survival mechanism. Going back to probably the cave days, right? But so is it important to take care of ourselves? Absolutely. And oftentimes we need to clear that unconscious internal weight that's held in the body, all of that negative energy and the negative emotion. And then the physical body gets to heal and respond. Because once we clear all of that, it's kind of like a closet or a pantry, right? So a few weeks ago, I cleaned out my pantry and it was the best day ever because it felt like Christmas because I love to be organized, but I'm also, 49 and perimenopause and some ADD. And so stuff can just like pile up around me, but I love to organize things. So I took everything out of the pantry, put it in the kitchen all over the place. It was everywhere, cleaned it all out. And then I threw away all of the expired stuff, like old cans of stuff, half open boxes of orzo and spices that have been in there forever, whatever. And then I put it all back and it all had a home and it was just so organized and it felt like Christmas. But it's the same for us. We have to throw away the expired ways of thinking and processing and the old stories so that we can make room for what's next. Or your closet is jammed full of clothes you haven't worn in 20 years and you're like, well, someday, well, there's no room for anything new. So you got to get rid of all that stuff so that you can then, get to go get a new pair of shoes or a fabulous new top or whatever it is. I mean, so it's the same with our unconscious and subconscious. We have to deal with that internal stuff or there's no room for what's meant for us. So once we get to get rid of all that, now we get to call in the things that we really want instead of continuing to experience more of what we don't want.
Amazing. I would like to ask you, where should our listeners and viewers start? What is the number one priority they should think about? Where should they so where should they go? Who should they ask? Uh, how can they start clearing their story? So what is the number one advice?
So I would love to share a practice that I do with my private clients that in the course of 3 days will change your life. Is that okay?
That would be perfect.
Okay, amazing. So for me, and we were talking a little bit about values. So my core values as a person and for my business are love, generosity, impact, belief in what's possible, and being a magnet for miracles. And that is my favorite thing to teach. So I have a process in my work. It's called the fear to focus flip, and it's the framework for becoming a magnet for miracles. And the reason this is so critical is that we need to understand that every single day we think between 65,000 and 85,000 thoughts. It's a lot of thoughts. 90% of those thoughts are recycled, meaning they're the same thoughts we thought yesterday and the day before and week before and probably the month and the year before, and for sure in the middle of the night when your brain is going crazy and you're running through all the what ifs, right? And the problem with that is 75% of those thoughts are negative. Now, I get a lot of pushback on that. My clients are like, nope, I am good on mindset. Like, I'm so clear. Like, I will never put up with that again and I will never do this. And so then the internal conversation is, I don't want another relationship where I don't feel like I can trust them. I don't want another relationship where I don't feel adored and cherished. I don't want to be in this job that I hate. I don't want to be in this financial position. I don't want to have this, extra joint pain and weight on my body. I don't want. While that feels like clarity, the unconscious mind and the universe can't hear the qualifying don't. All it knows is what you're focused on. It's like jumping in your car and opening Google Maps or your nav system and putting in an address, and it takes you there. Every single time you're focused on what you don't want, you're feeding your internal GPS directions to continue to bring you only those things. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So, having that knowledge, here's what I'm going to have you do. So, we're going to think of a room with 4 walls, one to our left, to our right, one in front of us, and one behind us. And one of those walls is going to be your away wall. And your away wall is everything you don't want. You don't want again, ever, more of. It's all the things you don't want in life. Another wall is going to be your toward wall. And your toward wall is everything you want. Hopes, dreams, wishes, goals, desires, all the things. So for you, for instance, if you were going to imagine these walls, where would your away wall be? Behind you. And where's your toward wall?
In front of.
Okay, amazing. So I want everybody, obviously not when you're driving, but I want you to get two clean pieces of paper. And on the top of one, I want you to write away. And the top of the other, I want you to write toward. And I want you to actually make those lists.
Mm-hmm.
Your away wall list, your toward wall list. And then what we're going to do is we're going to play for the next 72 hours because neuroscience has proven that we can actually rewire neural pathways and thought processes in 72 hours, as long as you're actually playing full out. So don't do this if you're like, oh no, I'm not gonna, I can do it for one day. Just start this when you can actually play for 3 days. And all you need is a rubber band. But it can't be a soft rubber band. It has to be like the office ones. So when you snap it, it stings because we need a pattern interrupt. And here's what we're gonna do. Over the course of the next 72 hours, should you accept this mission, every single time that you find yourself thinking, like spiraling down, feeling anxious, being in a place of fear, feeling, negative and nothing ever works out for me and I never find a parking spot and la 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 la, and why does this always happen to me? I want you to snap the rubber band hard enough so it stings. So we have the pattern interrupt.
Mm-hmm.
Then I want you to actually recall, okay, what was I actually thinking about? I guarantee it was something on that away wall list. And then we replace it with a better feeling thought. And there's a few ways to do that. Number one, look at something on your toward wall list. I don't care what it is, pick one and visualize with emotion of what that feels like as though it is.
Mm-hmm.
What do you hear? What do you see? What do you feel? What do you smell? What's around you? Because the brain doesn't know the difference between something that actually happens and something that's visualized with emotion. And understand that any thought that's held for more than 17 seconds with emotion either starts building new neural pathways or reinforces current ones. So at the beginning of this process, it might not be super evident because it's been running the show for so long. But here's how we replace that thought. So we acknowledge, like, okay, what was it I was thinking about? Okay, got it. Something on that away wall list. Either pick something on the toward wall list or just sit in, 30 or 60 seconds in like authentic gratitude for something that you're really grateful for. It could just be that, the sun is shining on my face and that feels wonderful. If you are still feeling the kind of that yucky, heavy energy, I want you to ask yourself, who can I serve in this moment? And it doesn't have to be some big grand gesture. It could be a thought, a prayer, a text to a friend. It could be picking up the newspapers on your neighbor's stoop and putting it by their front door because it's been raining, whatever it is. Just something to get out of your head and in service of someone else. As the 72 hours progress, you're going to find that you start to notice it faster. The point of this is not to say, oh, we're not going to have any of these thoughts ever again, and we're not going to experience these negative emotions. Well, no, we're human. We're not going to give you a lobotomy. The point is, I want you to get out of it faster, because right now you might have those thoughts and it might just, you might sit in that very low frequency energy all day. And then once you start this process and you're like, okay, then maybe it's a few hours and you realize, oh, I've been, in this kind of yucky space. What was I thinking about? And then it's an hour, and then it's minutes. And then ultimately it's almost visceral. It's like seconds where you catch it and you go, oh. So I do a silly thing for me that when I am having one of those moments, because we're human, and I kind of get a pit in my stomach now because I've been doing this for so long, and I'm like, oh. So I do a thing where I say, delete it from the universe, and then I say the opposite thing or replace it or whatever I need to do. But the point is, the faster that you can recognize it and pull yourself out of it and replace the thought, then all of your physical starts to shift. When you're focused on everything you want instead of what you don't want, the people, the resources, the opportunities, the experiences all show up to support you, because that's what you're looking for, because the reticular activating system in our brain is ignited to look for the directions in which we give it. So when we're focused on all the things we don't want, and the kind of this always happens to me, and I always get the short end of the stick, and la 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 la, 1000%, that will continue to be your life. Anywhere I go, there's always a parking spot for me because I've that's one of my most fun little like let's play with something because I hear that so often. People complain about things like that. There's never a parking spot when it's raining. I go to get my hair cut and it's never right. The people at the eye doctor lose my prescription. Everybody I meet is selfish and, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yes, 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 yes. Those are the only directions that you're giving. So play this game, and then I'd love to know what that experience was like for you. And the other thing I would say that I would love to give your listeners is I've created a diagnostic assessment called the ELLI, which stands for the Extraordinary Love Index. And it answers the question, what is standing between you and extraordinary love? That could be romantic love. It can be self-love. But what it does is it looks at 9 key areas, which also kind of align with my frameworks, but impact score, trauma score, communication, all these different things. And it's 40 questions. So this is not like the Disney princess quiz. It's an actual diagnostic. But then I send you a 28-page report customized to you based on all of the things that you shared. And it's going to show you where your scores are, what you might be experiencing in life, what it will cost you to stay there, and what you can start to do right now to shift that in an upward trajectory. And it will give you insight into yourself that will change your life, change every relationship you're in, from your children to a spouse to a business partner. And it's life-changing. And so I think every human on the planet should take the ELLI. So I would love for your listeners to be able to have that as my gift and to start there.
Thank you. That is amazing. So, where can our listeners reach out to you? Where can they get in touch?
Absolutely. Um, so the website, of course, rianamalia.com. All the socials, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Riana Malia. And in my bio on Instagram, or if you go to the website, you can access the ELLI. All the information is there available for you so that you can go in and take the ELLI. And of course, have the opportunity if you want to explore where you're at and have a complimentary clarity call. I would love to offer you that as well. So we can really look at where you are, and I can help to start shape a direction for you to move you from where you are now to be living the life that you actually desire.
Thank you. I will include all the links in the description below. And Rihanna, thank you again. Thank you for all the insights. You were amazing.
Absolutely. My pleasure.